Often when we talk about Lean, we talk about the tools, but actually it's about the people. The fundamental philosophy of Lean is about people. That fed through a lot of things that I did. I think that was a real turning point for me about, well, actually, as a leader, I don't need to have the answers because my guys have the answers.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the associates I work with is just wonderful. She's quite different to me in terms of she's in the creative industries, whereas I'm in obviously engineering. So when we stand up in a room full of 100 people, they get the benefit of both styles, if you like, which is quite fun and I think quite important actually to see that as role modelling. Different styles still gets results. One of the things around engineering sometimes is people go, oh, that's really techie. I've got to be brilliant at maths and physics, right? And then people look at manufacturing and go, oh, manufacturing's a really dirty industry, which it isn't. You can be working in a nice, clean, high-tech manufacturing facility, or you can be doing a kind of engineering that has some analytics and some logic to it, but you don't have to be the best at maths. Getting some of those messages that make the industry feel more accessible is quite important, because we often see women get pushed out of technical work into the more supportive pieces like project management or quality or logistics and that kind of thing. So actually getting really strong technical grounding was important.
Best piece of career advice you have ever received?
One that springs to mind was just have an agenda. And this isn't about having a political agenda or a meeting agenda, but have something that you're passionate about and getting known for so that people can engage with you around.
Every leader has a story to tell, and the Safe Leader podcast uncovers the diversity story behind leading figures championing change to make our world a better place. Join me, your host, Mark McBride-Wright, as we hear from business leaders, academics, entrepreneurs, and agents of change as they share their journeys of innovation, resilience, and transformation. Together, we explore how they embrace the principles of safe leadership, sharing, acting, feeling, and empowering to create safer, more inclusive environments for everyone. Hello, welcome to the next episode of the Safe Leader podcast. I'm your host, Mark McBride-Wright, and today we're joined with Sally Twisleton, who is an executive coach, facilitator, and former engineering leader who specialises in helping technically brilliant people become exceptional leaders. After an 18-year career at Rolls-Royce, including serving as head of engineering quality, she founded Assemble Coaching to support engineering leaders, teams, and organisations in having the conversations that matter most. During her time at Rolls-Royce, Sally led engineering quality governance, continuous improvement, capability development, and cultural transformation across a global engineering organisation. She also championed mentoring, coaching, engineering diversity and inclusion, and behavioural change, giving her a rare combination of deep technical credibility and expertise in human leadership. Today, through Assemble Coaching, Sally works with organisations including the Royal Academy of Engineering, Leonardo, universities and engineering businesses to develop leaders, facilitate high-performing teams and build coaching cultures. As a fellow of the Institution of Mechanical Engineers and an EMCC Senior Practitioner Coach, she brings together engineering discipline and human-centred leadership to help organisations unlock the potential that already exists within their people. Sally, hello.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Pleasure. We first met through Rolls-Royce, I think.
I think so, yeah. Either Rolls-Royce or maybe at the Royal Academy. I can't remember, but
maybe.
Yeah, we've got some shared mutual connections as well, haven't we? So.
We do. Yeah, we've been in each other's connection base, I guess, over the years. So thanks for coming on the Safe Leader. One of the things we like to do is find out a bit about the person in front of us, the motivation. So actually what I'm almost going to do is apply your own methodologies back to you and try and unpick the journey that got you to where you are today, and then, you know, what you see going forward. So if we get in that time capsule and go back and meet the younger Sally, I always feel bad when I'm saying that, like I'm being judged. The younger Sally, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah, I think I initially didn't really have a clue. I remember when I was really little wanting to mow the grass for the council because I wanted to ride the ride-on mower.
Okay.
But as I got a bit more experienced and kind of got into secondary school, I really liked doing design technology and had an aptitude for maths and physics. So I entered some young engineers competitions, and then engineering seemed like a really obvious kind of route because I just like making things.
Okay.
So that got me into engineering, and I had a few wobbles along the way where I sort of wondered if there were other things I could do, like architecture or landscape architecture or those kind of things. But I think it was always, as soon as I'd got into D&T, that was the route I wanted to take.
Those inspiration programs are sometimes I meet engineers, and it is one of those programs that was the spark point that either was the initiating event that led to an ambition to want to become an engineer, or it was the solidification event. Absolutely, this is the track I'm gonna follow. So it sounds like you did, yeah. So in that event that you did, or that moment, something that you attended, or was there an exercise that in particular, like, did you just get brought into the world of engineering, or did you pretty much decide on mechanical engineering? Like, was there diversity in your what engineer am I going to be kind of decision
There
process?
was I thought about that quite a lot because obviously I liked making things, so I'd made like a motorised trike at school and was quite into mechanical stuff. And then I was like,
Wow.
oh, there's a whole range of different engineers that I could be. In a little bit of time, I was like, oh, maybe I'll be a civil engineer. That'd be quite fun. And then I wasn't really sure, and so I thought, right, I'll be a mechanical engineer because mechanical has a little bit of everything in it in some ways. And so,
Okay.
and certainly the degree course I had quite a general first and second year. So there was some optionality to go off into be maybe electrical or manufacturing or mechanical or aerospace or sort of automotive. So I felt like if I get this good grounding, then I can kind of work it out as I go along, sort of thing.
Did you have like engineering role models around you, or people that had studied it, or were you from an area that has like a strong engineering backbone? Because if you're not in that sort of context, it can be a bit distant sometimes, maybe.
Yeah, so I had my design technology teacher had worked in industry previously,
Okay.
so he could tell me a little bit about that. I think going to all these Young Engineers for Britain kind of competitions, you got a bit more awareness of the engineering industry. And then I guess my mum's side of the family all grew up in the wool industry in Bradford, so
All right.
they were kind of ran mills and that kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
So I have that kind of real tie to British manufacturing and a real pride to keep trying to do
Amazing.
that. Not maybe in the same way, but it's something that feels really important to me.
I didn't even realize there was a wool industry and or historical wool industry in that bit of the country.
Yeah, massive.
Um,
Yeah.
wow. You sound like you had a Young Engineering Britain competition. So were you actually competing in some national, and a recipient of some sort of national accolade or something for this motorized trike that you
Yeah, I
just
can't remember
offhandedly refer to?
the award was, but there was definitely like a regional final, I think, which I think I won, and then went on to the national final. I don't think I won that. It's a long time ago back. I can't quite remember, but yeah, I won some awards for the
Come
trade.
on, these are your origin stories for your journey into engineering. You need
Yeah,
to
well, I've
spend
got a
some time.
big scrapbook under the bed somewhere, so I should dust it off and have a little look.
Okay, yeah. And what's your view then on? So, right, okay. So I was going to ask you about STEM inspiration nowadays and stuff, but if we keep to the track of your career, then we can come on to that. So you decided, you locked in on mechanical. Where did you live nearby, or did you go for the full student experience and move out? And
Yes,
yeah, walk us through
I
that stage.
went to Nottingham. I was living
Okay.
in Yorkshire at the time, but I went to Nottingham, and partly that was driven by I like the campus, nice environment, and partly it was driven by Nottingham had this kind of common 2 years for their first couple of years of the degree, so there was an optionality to if you go from
Oh,
a
right.
campus, you
So
could
you
maybe
could tailor, or you could do general and then specialise.
That was it. And also, it seemed like a pretty practical degree, because what I really didn't want was to become a real theoretical engineer. I was really about the practical application of the knowledge to making stuff or to engineering solutions. So that degree course seemed to be a good fit for me, and I had a good time. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Although I think I had a bit of a wobble after my first year, partway through my second year, because it was getting really heavy from a maths perspective at that point.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not sure this is for me. But I think I was sort of halfway through the second year and was like, well, I could come out after 3 years with a bachelor's. I'll just keep going, because it'll stand me in really good stead for whatever I choose to do.
Yeah.
And actually, once I got into my third year, it became much more applied, and that was when I really liked it much more, because it was like, I can see how I can do stuff now, and how this might actually be applied.
Yeah, I went to Imperial, and the maths department at the time taught engineering in the first and second year to all the engineering departments, and it was horrible. I mean, it was just, they've changed it now. I think each department now teaches maths in how it then is applied to the particular discipline of to the department, basically, rather than it being the maths department teaching everyone, because it just got so abstract and so, there were more letters on your paper than numbers, and I was like, what the hell is this? I had to derive things from first principles and all that. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's the same. And I was like, well, the aim of this is to pass this exam, so I'm just going to learn these methodologies as to how to do these proofs.
Yeah.
To pass the exam, rather than I'm going to learn to be a really good engineer here. So it was a bit, but once we pushed through that was okay, because then it was much more, applied. So like thermal systems for houses, or thinking about actually jet engine design and stuff. So
yes.
I can see now why I needed to know that, because now I can do this thing, which was really good.
So let's pick up on that thread then, jet engines. Did you go straight to Rolls-Royce after your undergrad, or did you move around a bit and then eventually come there?
No, I went straight there. So I did a research student placement in between my third and fourth year. I got into the University Technology Centre at Nottingham for, I think it was 12 weeks, something like that. Anyway, some nice paid employment for my summer holiday. And the project I was working on was, I think, stress analysis of metal matrix composites for shaft applications, and that was with Rolls-Royce. So that was my first kind of like, this industry thing that has application. So I remember going to see Rolls-Royce with my research guy, and it'd been like, this is what it's like. Okay, interesting. So that was my first kind of taste of Rolls-Royce. And then in my fourth year, I was absolutely adamant I was going to get a job as quickly as possible, so that then I could focus on my studying for the rest of the fourth year.
Good strategy.
As soon as grad schemes opened, I was like, right, I'm on it. Applications. And I applied to quite a lot of the kind of big corporates, because I was like, I really want to do a good grounding grad scheme, because yet again, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do in engineering. So I was like, if I go a grad scheme, I can see a business and get some knowledge, and maybe then become a design engineer, go do wind turbines or something, which was sort of at the back of my mind. Anyway, Rolls-Royce was one of the early grad schemes that opened. I applied, got an interview quite early, and by I think it was October, November time, had a place on a grad scheme. And so then it was like, right, for the rest of the year, I just worked really hard on my degree, which I was really lucky. Like, it was just good timing. Yeah.
So tell us about then your time at Rolls-Royce. It sounds like you had quite an established career there. You moved up. You were involved in quality and leadership and some other sides. What was it like working there, and how has it set you up for what you do now?
Oh yeah, so I love working for Rolls-Royce. It was like I said, I don't think I'd intended to stay. I thought maybe 5 years and then I'll go to something else. But actually, when you get into an organisation like that, there's just so much opportunity.
Yeah.
And I really got into, to start with, like operations and understanding how the product was made, because I was like, right, that's what makes the money, so how do we do that? How do we make the product? So that was really interesting. And I think quite early on I was like, oh, actually, if you'd asked me back at school, I wouldn't have wanted to do a job working with people very much, and so that's kind of, just do my analysis or whatever and then get on with it. But actually working with the guys on the shop floor, I realised it was all about working with people, and I really sort of lit a fire under me.
Interesting.
And I think throughout my career, there's been a real common theme about improvement. So, in an ops environment, you really learn about continuous improvement because that's what it's all about, really. And then taking that thread of improvement through everything that I did. And as I learned more and more about improvement and kind of lean techniques, that's what taught me about coaching, because really, often when we talk about lean, we talk about the tools, but actually it's about the people. The fundamental philosophy of lean is about people. And so that fed through a lot of things that I did. And then I think, like, when I was a quality manager, I got involved in the QF32 investigation at Rolls-Royce. So probably, I don't know, was it 20? I can't remember anyway, quite a while ago.
I don't know what that is. What's
the Trent 900 had quite a catastrophic failure on the Qantas flight, where a bit of the turbine blade came out of the engine, and it was all over the press at the time. It was one of the sort of biggest failures in the history of Rolls-Royce, I suppose. And so I was right in the middle of some of those quality investigations.
Wow.
The engineers were all focused on the technical root cause, which rightly so was quite a big issue. And then within the quality organisation, we were working on the kind of process root cause that went underneath that. And so I was in the middle of that. And that was a real good learning curve for me around stakeholder management, influencing it without authority, getting to true, robust root cause of not only the product bit, but actually the process bit and some of the behavioural stuff underneath that. So that was really a kind of a seminal experience for me.
Okay.
And then I kind of went and did some one of my proper first direct line leadership roles, and that was leading a load of manufacturing experts. And so that was quite interesting because I wasn't a manufacturing expert. It was quite obvious to me that there was no way I could tell these guys what to do because they were all a lot more senior than me, a lot older than I was.
How did you feel when you got that opportunity then, like the night before your first one-to-one with one of them? How can you remember what that felt like?
It was I felt a bit intimidated. I was a bit like, well, how am I going to get these? Like, because one of them, I think, was in his 60s and I was probably in my, like, mid to late 20s at this point. And I was like, oh man, this guy is I think he was one of the manufacturing fellows, right? So that's the most senior, technically not knowledgeable people in the organisation.
Yeah.
And I was like, how am I going to get him to follow me? But it was quite interesting because I got to know them all and they were like lovely men. It was brilliant. And I think I learned that they were really good at the technical stuff. But I could fill the gap with helping them with structure because they were all experts, actually helping them come together and share their approaches and help each other on some of the best practice sharing, not on the technical stuff, but on how they were doing some of the technical stuff. So my role was more of a facilitating sort of a leader.
Makes sense.
And I would coach them as well, because I could ask them questions that would help them to think about their stuff. So I think that was a real turning point for me about, well, actually, as a leader, I don't need to have the answers because my guys have the answers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just need to enable them.
Did you? And was there a energy of setting you up for success, and we're here to, or did you almost have to earn their respect first, and their default mindset was, what are you going to offer us? Like, what was the sort of energy?
I think the energy was a bit of indifference from them, really. I think they were like, all right, we've got this leader, that's fine. And they were all spaced around the country, so like I was in Derby and some of them were in the north, in plants in the north, and some of them were in plants in the south, sort of thing. And so I think there was a bit like, oh, we can just carry on and Sally will just sort of, just be there.
She'll appear when...
she'll appear sometimes, but I'll just carry on, it'll make no difference. And I think there was an element of, they know what they're doing, I'm going to trust them to get on with that, because you're managing at distance as well. So
of course.
But then there was an element of actually, well, what is our strategic intent as a business here at this point? How am I going to facilitate that to be better? We've got some shared goals that we need to work on, so how do I get us together as a team and do that kind of value-added work? whilst also not disrupting them because they know what they're doing. Like, they just sometimes need a bit of herding.
Yeah, yeah. You're the
Yeah.
sheepdog.
That's it. That's it. And like, the chaps in the north have got some really good practice that they could share with the chaps in the south and vice versa. So
Yeah.
how do I facilitate a bit of that? So it was an interesting first team leadership role, in as much it's quite a bit different, I think, from a lot of people's typical experiences, but really formative for me. And I, found over time that they valued my input, they valued my support. Part of it was also kind of blocking stuff, so if there's things that they wanted to get done, I would help them sort that out, really.
I remember being on a panel once and someone said, and I just loved it, she said, my job as the leader is to remove roadblocks.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, that's great.
That's it. You just got to enable your people to do what they need to do, especially if they are of that, like, deep technical knowledge. They know what needs doing. Sometimes it's just that they're a bit disempowered, or because they're technically great, they're not as great at stakeholder management and what have you.
How did you handle moments where it became a bit thorny? It couldn't have been all plain sailing.
No, it wasn't. No, I think it just took practice, really. And I mean, I suppose my skill, my strength is like being quite calm and quite measured, and trying to use data or use facts or get their input in things. So there were times when we had to do these things called commodity desktops, and they were basically like knowledge hubs of information about manufacturing stuff.
Okay.
So we had to get the guys to create the data to go into these desktops, and there was a project plan, and you've got to do it in certain times, and obviously then they're all in the plants trying to support the technical work in the plants. So there was often tension about, we need to do this thing to these deadlines versus their work. So just really it was about sort of being clear and working out how we collectively did that and getting those blockers out of the way. But there were sometimes thorny issues where they're like, no, we can't do this right now. This is not important for us, blah, 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 blah. And so, it's just kind of working that through and negotiating with them to find a solution that works for everybody, really. So there was no times when you have to really... And you have to kind of be aggressive about it. It's just like, let's understand it together and work it out, because we all want the same thing in the end of the day.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. No. And so how did this? So it sounds like you. So you said the Qantas investigation, the TR 900, I think.
QF32 for the Trent 900 engine.
Yeah. That was a seminal experience from a technical side in terms of investigation and responding to something, and then you had this leadership experience. So they're two quite interesting phases to go through in your career that they've essentially then paved the way for what you're doing now, or did you have some additional experiences whilst you were in Rolls-Royce before?
Definitely when I got my kind of proper senior leader role. So then when I was head of engineering quality, I had a much bigger team.
Okay.
And at that point also I decided that coaching was really, really important as part of my leadership skills. So I decided I was going to go and do a degree in that. Because it's something I was really passionate about as well. And I remember a conversation with my line manager that said, can I have the time off to go and do this degree? I'll pay for it. And he said, actually, no, we'll pay for it as well. So that was wonderful from Rolls-Royce. That was a great investment in me. So kind of doing those coaching skills and then seeing how that played out, being a leader who coached much more intentionally and with much more skill and knowledge behind me, was sort of another formative experience, I think, and seeing how that felt through the kind of facilitation work that I did as a senior manager in leading quality. And then leading my team through COVID and loads of transformations. Rolls-Royce in the more recent years has gone through quite a few transformations.
Yes.
And so trying to take my team through that change and the reflection about the emotional and personal toll that takes, as well as the organisational toll of managing that. So yeah, I think that all led up to me being like, this coaching thing, there's something in it.
It's got traction. What do you do in a coaching degree?
You learn all about coaching. So my degree was coaching and mentoring, and it had a lot of different elements to it. So we learned about coaching skills, we learned about leadership, we learned about ethics and the importance of ethics and supervision and personal development. And
Okay.
then we did things, specific applications on like team coaching, how to do really good mentoring schemes, a bit more advanced coaching skills.
Right.
And then I did my dissertation, which was looking at the role of coaching and mentoring in the progression of female leaders to senior roles in engineering. So
Oh wow.
I interviewed like nine, I think it was nine, CTO, chief engineer type level
Yeah.
women from across industry, and just built a model from their feedback about the
Okay.
role coaching and mentoring had played in their careers, and kind of inferred how that might then play across to an organisation supporting a woman through her leadership to a senior
Through
role.
stages. How long did it take, and did you do it around work, or was it a full time
Yeah, I did it
experience?
around work, so it was about just over 2 years, I think.
Okay.
And then we sort of did weeks at a time, and then when you do your dissertation, it's pretty self-led anyway. But I was really lucky that I, at the time, asked my line manager if I could do a 4-day week.
Yeah.
Slightly compressed, slightly reduced hours, so I would had a day a week to do my degree, because it was
Fine.
it was like doing a dissertation, as people will know, is
Yeah.
it's a
Fitting
nightmare.
that. Also, doing it later in life, you really need your evenings and weekends. It's sort of cramming stuff in, and you're just you're beyond that a bit.
Well, that's it. Trying to do a senior leadership role in a big corporate and study for a degree kind of thing just felt like a lot. So having that extra day to focus on that was really valuable. So I was again grateful to Rolls for having that flexible working policy that I could use.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So and then over time, I just got more and more of an itch to go and use this more
Yeah.
widely, and it be my job rather than an element of my job.
Yeah.
So,
And I think I remember seeing you at can't remember the venue that the Royal Academy had hired, because it wasn't at Prince Philip House, and I also can't remember the event. Some
I think it
report
might have
they
been the
were launched.
DEI engine one, actually. Yeah, I seem to remember
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
true. There are so many reports that come out of that. They're incredible. It's a powerhouse of insight data, which is so useful for us across the profession. And you were just setting up, I think, at that point. So how's it going? Yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, it's going okay. I think the more coaches I talk to, the more this is a shared experience, which as you're setting up, you need to do other things as well as the
Right.
coaching and facilitating just as you build the business. So I'm still doing a bit of engineering type work, in that I do a bit of consultancy, engineering project management type consultancy for transformation projects.
Okay.
But which is great because it uses that set of skills and experience to kind of continue doing a bit of leadership, which I think is good actually, because it keeps you sharp and connected to the
Fresh.
industry.
Has that enabled you to diversify the context within which you're applying those skills? So beyond what Rolls-Royce did, but to different sectors or different branches of engineering. That must be
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, that is interesting, and also going from a corporate into smaller organisations, so really getting a bit more of a sense of what it's like to be in an SME and how that's very different from a corporate. I think, which is really valuable, because I think you get a bit maybe a bit insulated from the real world in corporate
Yeah,
life.
you do. Absolutely. No, you do. I call it large employer privilege. You get paid your check at the end of the month. You've got all the holidays. You've got everything, and it's just sort of, you've got all that infrastructure around you. And then when you are a small business owner, which you'll know yourself now, actually being a small business owner and also consulting for other small business owners, you are everything when you are running your own thing. You are responsible for the marketing, the sales, the delivery, the operations, and yeah. Anyway, it's there's nothing quite like a formative experience of running your own enterprise.
I agree. Yeah, you're like, which printer do I use? Do I buy? I have no idea. Whereas IT would have just sorted that out for you. So yes, I'm doing this bit of consultancy, but I am really increasingly doing more coaching, more facilitating, and the stuff that I am doing, I'm really loving. So the stuff that I've done repeatedly with the Royal Academy has just been an absolute joy. When I set out, I had like a little manifesting board. It's a bit woo, but of companies and organisations I wanted to work with, and the Royal Academy was up there, and was like,
Fantastic.
I've achieved that. So yeah, it's going good. I'm enjoying the work. The running the business bit, like you say, is quite tricky. It's hard, and like business development and sales is not my sweet spot, but I'm getting better at it. And
Have you got? Do you partner up with other coaches to go for larger contracts or larger tender opportunities that you find?
yeah, a little bit, and increasingly, like so for the. I keep banging on about the Royal Academy, but for the Royal Academy stuff,
Yeah.
me and an associate delivered that together, and that was a real
Okay.
joy because I like working on my own, but I also really like working with other people. It's more fun, isn't it? So
It's a nice way to keep that. You feel like you're working in a team, but structurally you're not, because you're all running your own thing, but you're still then coming together on a common project. So you still maintain a taste of the world as it was when you were in a large employer. It's not so binary being a big business or a small business, or just run your own business on your own and that's it. You can still get that collaborative feeling.
yeah, and I think the joy of doing it by yourself, sort of thing, is that you can really pick and choose who you want to work with as
Absolutely.
an associate. So one of the associates I work with is just wonderful. She's quite different to me in terms of she's in the creative industries, whereas I'm in
Okay.
obviously engineering. But we bring a really lovely pairing because actually we're quite different. So when we stand up in a room full of 100 people, they get the benefit of both styles, if you like, which is quite fun, and I think quite important actually to see that as role modelling. Different styles still gets results, sort of thing. So yeah, it's going good. I'm enjoying it. Don't look back and have any regrets about leaving. So that's good.
What's on your manifesting board that you're happy sharing that hasn't yet been achieved?
I think, well, one is about sustainable growth. So
Okay.
kind of, had a good couple of years. I'm keen for that to keep growing and to keep developing. So that's one of the things. I've got like some little plant pots with a little bit of money on trees sort of thing growing. So that's one thing. And then sort of other organisations that I'd like to work with. So I'd quite like to get a bit more into the energy sector, certainly the renewables energy sector, or that kind of space, because it's kind of true to my values, this idea of part of engineering is about making the world better. So if we can get into those kind of spaces and
You're
make a
working
difference.
if you feel alignment between your values and the good you want to do in the world, and then actually the clients and the sectors that you're working to support, it just adds that extra flair, doesn't it, to how you show up. Well, not how you show up, because you show up equally in all places, but it just gives that extra uplift to your own sense of purpose.
I think that's it. Like, back to what I talked about, feeling like British manufacturing is really important. So I'm working with British manufacturing companies. That's great, because you're like, right, this is about their growth. This is about more jobs for manufacturing, hopefully. And then, what are the impact that the companies that you're working with having on the world? That's important too. So
what's your view on British manufacturing? I feel like every time I go on LinkedIn, there's and I feel like this experience that I'm about to share is a microcosm of a much larger issue. You see these big brands, big companies or entities, organisations that represent the manufacturing sector, who you would think have programs of mentoring and this and that. And then it's someone from that organisation putting a LinkedIn post up to say, hey, can you help Ruth in the northeast here, because her welding apprenticeship has just been coming to an end, or she needs another 6 months to finish it. Is there anyone here who can help, please? And it just feels really like, why? And these are big organizations that I would, from the outside looking in, would assume have like big employer networks behind them and committees and why then is like LinkedIn the space where this stuff is showing up? I'm not criticizing it. I just it's not a good sign if the organizations that are supposed to be the conveners or the interconnectors between SME and large employers, if that's the strategy we're having to use when we're at the extreme end of a talent exit from the sector.
Yeah. Yeah, I think British manufacturing is really tricky at the moment. Like, there's some amazing capability in the UK, and trying to keep that and get the skills into these businesses and get people interested in manufacturing, right? Because it is such a cool industry. But I think there's lots of surveys that says people don't really know what manufacturing
What
is,
it is.
or
They think it's maybe, yeah, they think it's something that they've seen in the movies from
yeah.
older times and don't
Yeah, all the
actually
times, or they
get
don't
it.
even really know that it exists. So I
Yeah.
think for me, there's something about raising that awareness about manufacturing. I think engineering is better understood and known, which is good. I think then there's things about actually how do these networks work effectively in pulling people together, because there's, you could probably name a good handful of people, and we wouldn't probably name the same people that are trying to connect businesses.
Yeah.
I think when businesses are busy running for their lives in some instances
Yeah.
with head down, it's quite hard to pick your head up and look out and see what's going on.
Yeah.
So having forums and mechanisms to share that, and those individual forums working together more collaboratively, I think is really important. So one of the things that
Do you think, I was just going to ask you, when you said they're manufacturing and do you see them as being different? Like, I just wonder, does there need to be a difference in identity between engineering and manufacturing? I see manufacturing as a subset of engineering, so therefore why are we not just promoting careers in engineering and then manufacturing as one? Then why does it need this kind of
Yeah, I understand totally. Yeah, I think they're
separate? Yeah.
they are different skill sets, and they're different.
Okay.
There's different, engineering is much more about the kind of design analysis piece, and then manufacturing is about how do you make it, if you like. But to connect the two is so important. So, we used to have design engineers and manufacturing engineers. I would have liked to have had engineers. Because by building that divide, you get people who know how to design things but don't necessarily know how to make things. So then you get into making it, and it doesn't get put together well, or it isn't designed for manufacture effectively. So trying to smooth out the skills between those two. And I think actually more collaboration between manufacturers and engineering organisations would be very helpful. So for me, I think there's a bit about industry bodies doing more collaboration together, so that we can take some of that duplication out, but we can also have one voice, and employers have less interfaces to manage, to learn good practice and to share stuff. So I think there's something certainly about, collaboration is absolutely fundamentally, I will bang on about that all the time because I think it's really important. But trying to, as you say, break down some of those walls, and having an industrial strategy that also then talks about engineering and manufacturing together, rather than an engineering skills strategy and a manufacturing skills strategy.
Yeah. It's straight. I guess maybe it's the different sectors. Chemical engineering is my provenance, and I worked in the design phases of large what went on to become large engineering projects. But, engineers are involved at all stages, from the design through to the front end engineering design, through to the detailed design, through to the commissioning, the manufacturing of the components that are then needed, or bought off the shelf components that are needed to then commission and then load up, like start doing startup essentially operations, and then the actual operations and delivery of the chemical plant or the oil and gas platform or the whatever the infrastructure is that's being designed to brought into use to deliver what its piece is. So maybe chemical engineering doesn't have such a hard division between, well, that's my experience anyway. And then you're right, when it comes across to other sectors of engineering or other like I don't know, aerospace, for example. Yes, you design an aeroplane with the different components and the internals and the externals and the wings and the engines, and then it goes to a manufacturer to bring it together. But then surely there's
but you'd still have engineers. You'd still have engineers in that manufacturer. So I think maybe it's an artificial line, which actually, if we
could dissolve that a bit, that would be, because I've seen like some places talking about the sad decline in the uptake of design and technology, which obviously that was a large part of your origin story and your inspiration story from what you shared at the beginning.
Yeah.
And maybe if we, I don't know, I think there's an optimization that's maybe needed in this identity of what we're trying to solve, where we could maybe make it a bit easier.
Yeah.
But that's just my view.
Well, and I think it could help break down some barriers, right? Because I think one of the things around engineering sometimes is people go, oh, that's really techie. I've got to be brilliant at maths and physics, right?
Yeah.
And then people look at manufacturing and go, oh, manufacturing's a really dirty industry, which it isn't. And there's but if you go, well, actually, you can be doing high-tech engineering that goes through to a high-tech manufacturing facility, and you can be operating a machine tool, which you don't need to have loads of maths and physics experience for this. It just starts to open up the opportunities, and people start to break down the fact that, okay, well, you can be working in a nice, clean, high-tech manufacturing facility, or you can be doing a kind of engineering that has some analytics and some logic to it, but you don't have to be the best at maths in the world, sort of thing. You just got to have practical application. And I think more of that is getting some of those messages that make the industry feel more accessible is quite important. I think
we need to take this forward to whatever Andy Burnham's going to start rolling out through the reprioritising the modern industrial strategy and the priority sectors that they have through it, because otherwise I think we're just going to be on this sort of hamster wheel of like not really moving anywhere, or at worst regressing, because people are leaving the sector because of the cultural issues that you and I and others are sort of trying to redress.
For sure. I think, we talked a little bit about attraction to the industry, but retention is really key. And I think that's where, the really important work that you do around D&I and the sense that I'm trying to get across, which is how do we design environments that people feel included and can speak and feel like they're valued, and run sessions in a way that are inclusive and do get people to think more intentionally about their leadership, so that a nicer environment is important.
How did that show up in your thesis, in your research?
Yeah,
the 9 female leaders that you interviewed.
So I created a sort of model that sort of said, actually, across the life in work of a woman, if you like, there's 3 phases really. So the bottom of the model said you need inclusive leadership, you need good policies and support, and then from a mentoring perspective, you need to have, in early career, it's important to support women in getting a really good, strong technical foundation so that they feel confident and empowered to act technically. They have good grounding. Because we often see women get pushed out of technical work into the more supportive pieces like project management or quality or logistics and that kind of thing. So actually getting really strong technical grounding was important. Okay. Then as you started to get into your mid-career, having mentoring that supported you from giving you a little bit of a challenge and a bit of a bit of visibility about roles that you could go for. Yes. But also gave you some kind of emotional support, because in the middle of your career, it's the bit where it gets really tricky. Yeah. And there's lots of demands on you. The other element of mentoring was around women that might want to go and have children. How do you support them through that process of going out of the organisation for a bit and then coming back into the organisation? So providing wraparound mentoring for that. Yeah. And then when we got them to a more senior level, sponsorship became really important. So having a male ally in the organisation, or even a female ally, who was going to advocate for these women to get the top roles, who was going to go out of their way to talk well about them in rooms that they're not in, and to really help raise their visibility and sponsor them into those more senior roles. So quite intentional, different types of mentoring and support across the life cycle of and then coaching.
Did menopause come up?
No, not really. It didn't actually. And really? I don't know whether that was I didn't ask questions about it particularly. Right. And it was a few years ago, right? So it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago now that I did that dissertation. Maybe 4. But I think menopause has really come into the fore a lot recently. So perhaps it just wasn't at the at a point when everybody wanted to talk about that. Don't know.
Yeah, I think if you were to do it now, it would be definitely a talking point. I think there's it's the sort of taboo nature of it, because it definitely is a barrier.
For sure.
It's starting to be spoken about, and it is something that will affect women at any stage of their career. You know, we've had people in our Eco Engineers Women's Network who have gone through induced menopause due to, you know, treatment for certain things early in their life, and they've had to make decisions and stuff. So
I think I'm just on the cusp of it now. So we're just like perimenopause is on its way. I can tell.
Is it? You know, I always say, to the extent that someone is willing to be a lighthouse and share your story as part of the Safe Leader framework, if you can share your story and be a lighthouse for others, and especially if the story that you're sharing is about elements of your identity or experiences that we cannot see from the surface, then that helps your confidence grow, obviously within the boundary of what you're comfortable sharing at that moment. But then equally, it gives permission for others to hear from you what they maybe feel in themselves, and gives them permission to surface that up. And
yeah, definitely. I think it's a sense of like you're not on your own with this, and it has been taboo to talk about in the past, but it's not anymore. It's
another example of masking, covering, hiding, being in the closet, an energy delta between who you're showing up as there in that moment, and then actually what you're experiencing and what you're going through, and that's a risk. You know, to me, it's about risk management. That's an engineering risk. We need people to be fully present, fully focused, and if there's anything that's affecting that might affect decision making, etc., we need to then know that and be supporting them, and also know people then that know how to support that, but people don't know how to support that because it's been something that has been casually, because of ingrained misogyny within the healthcare profession, just, you know, wiped off, or you know, it's just never been addressed properly. I think there's a real dialogue happening now between couples about how the menopause is experiencing, is manifesting then in their relationship, and I
think it's that thing of like everybody's experience of this will be different as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Being able to talk about it and talk about what your individual needs are in your workplace or with the people that you're working with, I think is really key. So being able to create those kind of, as a leader, that openness that if somebody does want to talk about it, and they might not want to, and that's okay, but if somebody does want to talk about their support needs, that they feel that they can. And
for men to talk about their experience in their relationship with it too as well, whether it's through their mother or or a close family relative, or their wife, or their maybe even their daughters, who knows, their family. Right.
Well, it just opens up the door that it's okay to talk about it, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So, well, Mike, that might be part of the next evolution of your work. Quick fire questions. You ready?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. Right. What's the biggest myth about leadership?
What's the biggest myth about leadership? I think that you've got to have all the answers.
What's the most underrated skill for engineers?
Listening.
One phrase you'd love engineering leaders to stop saying?
We just need to write it down in a process.
Best leadership lesson.
Can we just say a little bit more about that? Or is it a bit cryptic?
One more sentence.
Okay. It's about helping the people change as well as just writing it down. So you've got to embed the learning more than just writing it down. Yeah.
That makes sense. What's the best leadership lesson Rolls-Royce taught you?
I think the way that you show up makes more of a difference than you would think.
Okay. A book that shaped your thinking?
Oh, Time to Think by Nancy Klein is my favourite.
One meeting every engineering organisation should have more of?
The one-to-one between leader and individual contributor.
One meeting every engineering organisation should have less of?
The update, which could just have been an email.
Good advice. Best piece of career advice you have ever received?
This one's really hard. One that springs to mind was just have an agenda And this isn't about having a political agenda or a meeting agenda, but have something that you're passionate about and get known for, that people can engage with you around.
Oh, I like that. Your ideal way to recharge after a busy week?
Go just for a little walk. I'm lucky that I live in a village in the countryside, so I can just walk out my door and have a little stroll. So that's very recharging for me.
Finally, what's one word that defines great leadership?
Intentional.
Intentional. Love it. I really enjoyed that, Sally. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I loved it. Thank you so much. It's really good to talk to you. I feel like we could do one of these again, actually. Like, there's lots of threads I want to pull out a little bit more.
Absolutely. Well, if people want to get in touch with you or find out more about your work, how should they do that?
Well, they can connect with me on LinkedIn, so I'm always posting stuff on there so they can find out a little bit more about me. Or they can come to my website, which is www.assemblecoaching.com, and at the moment I've got some free resources on there, so if they do /free, they'll get to a little audio series that I've created about leadership, so some interesting thoughts, hopefully.
And if anyone is inspired to book some time with you, are you available for one-to-one coaching or group coaching?
Yep, so I'm available for one-to-one coaching for leaders in engineering or wider, and then if you want a team workshop running or some time to think about facilitating or even bigger kind of community events which I pull together, you can just get in touch. So all the contact details are on my website.
Fabulous. All right. Well, we'll put a link in the show notes as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mark. It's really good to see you again, and thanks for this opportunity. It's been fun.
No worries. You have been listening to the Safe Leader podcast, uncovering the diversity story behind leading figures championing change to make our world a better place. If you have enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to the Safe Leader podcast on your podcast platform of choice and get notified when a new episode goes live. Did you know that we also offer a full transcript on each of our podcast episodes? Check out my website, McBride-Wright.com. Here, you can also explore the training, coaching, and keynote speaking services I offer. And whilst you're there, why not join the Safe Leader community by subscribing to the Safe Leader Insights mailing list? Thank you for listening, and please come back and join us on a future episode.